Positioning Your Passion podcast. I'm your host, Na, and I am here with a very special guest, Shawnee Dez.
Hey, y'all. Hey.
So, jumping right in, you just released a project.
I did. Wow. LOL.
3 years in the making.
3 long, aggressive years.
How does it feel to finally have that project like just out in the world?
Honestly, a couple of people have been asking me that. And to be honest, I just feel more normal. Like, I feel like a heavy weight is lifted off. Like, I feel like myself again. Because I'm not, obsessing over these intricate details or are people gonna like it? Is it gonna? I don't know what all the fear is about. When you let shit like that go, it's like, what was I even tweaking over? So I
Because
feel
you've been
great.
performing those songs for like they've been a part of your live set. They just haven't been available for people to go and listen to.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like I usually do that to like get a feel for if people are gonna fuck with it or not. Can I curse? I could curse.
For sure.
Okay. And I just think that performing it live and sort of seeing that exchange in person in real time really does help me understand, like, okay, maybe I need to slow this song down, maybe I need to speed it up, or maybe the context is not really giving, or maybe it is. It always gives, though. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Like, I never actually have to tweak a song.
Because they're so good.
Thanks, Nicole.
I'm a fan.
Thank
so
you.
You're talking to a fan right now.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for like even saying yes to being on the podcast. This is our pilot episode. We've been like doing a lot to kind of like think about what will make this different. And a lot of the goals with Positioning Your Passion is to talk to creative entrepreneurs around like what is working, what are you actually doing to build your career, but then also sustain it. And before we go further, let's like drink to that. Drink to Moody Umbra. I said it right?
Yeah,
okay. In the world.
In the world.
3 years in the making. Cheers.
3 years in the making.
Congratulations.
Cheers. Thank you so much.
You funny. And so how many people were involved in this project? I know it's
a zillion.
Yeah.
In terms of the music making, in the beginning, so like January 2020, went to Colorado with like 8 dudes. But we were all like, okay, cool. I want to make a project. Mm-hmm. Let's just invite, like, also Kurt, actually one of my homies, Kurt Shelby, who's on the project. He reminded me the other day that none of the guys who came knew each other. There was everybody knew me and Eddie. None of the guys knew each other for real. And so I like to remember that music is so powerful because it can really just bring strangers together. Mm-hmm. But yeah, 3 years in the making. There was like 8 of them. And then after I got back home over the course of 2020 and 2021, I called in some of my other homies and was like, hey, can you add this to this? Like maybe they weren't there for laying down the idea, but they were there to like embellish it and like add to it and make it just more beautiful. And so I would say in all, like it's probably like 11. I think I did say 11. It's 11 songs, 11 people on the project, 1 feature, 1 project.
Yeah. Shout out Mello.
Shout out Mello, right?
Yeah, the only feature that got through.
The only feature.
So talk a little bit about like what your collaborative process is like, because I know like you record some of your own vocals. You also producer, low-key choir director.
Yeah. So collaborative process. One thing that I've noticed in my recent collaboration with the person who executively produced everything, Eddie Burns, chemistry is really important to me. Like it's really hard for me to work with someone, specifically a producer who's like, hey, I got this beat. You know, like that never clicks for me. Like even if the beat is cold, like 9 times out of 10, whatever I make to it probably won't ever come out. And I think it's more because, and I think that other vocalists, and especially other women vocalists, can relate to sort of guys trying to dominate the creative experience. And so not thinking of it as a collaboration. And so if you're like, this not really sitting with me, like, can we add this, add that? They're like, nah, like this kind of just is what it is. Versus me being in the room when every single thing on my project was created and also creating everything. So like really co-producing everything, saying how chords should be, or adding sound design. I love sound design, so I love picking out what sounds are going on a specific song, vocal arrangement, really all of it. Like it's being in the room from A to Z is the best part to me. The creation part is really important, and that's the most fun part. And then it's like, okay, now we got to like polish this to put it out. That's the hard part. And then performing it is like, yeah, let's go. So I would say my collaboration style is definitely having really good chemistry, being in the room from A to Z, and making sure that I'm working with people that value my voice and value what creative experience I bring to the table. Because, like I said, a lot of times, a lot of guys are like, I got this song, I feel like you'll be good on it. And I'm like, then why you didn't call me when you was making it?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, and people be feeling a way about points too. So like royalties, thinking about how many points somebody get on a song. When you working with people that actually want to create with you and they're not thinking about that end goal, they don't care how if you get 50% of the production. You know what I'm saying? Like they're like, I really rock with you.
Because they value you.
They value you. And it's like, if we both put 100% in it, we gonna both get 200 back together. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I would say that's really important. I don't even have to be friends with people to work with them, but I do think that music has the power to like really bring people together. And so if the energy is not clicking and we're creating together, I'm not going to force it, and I'm not pressed to, and it's okay. It's cool, it's always going to be love, All
right, who have you turned down to work with? Drop like, I like being messy, but
messy? I
won't. But like, what is that? I guess what has that transition been like for you? Because I think we've had conversations around like, I'm not the feature girl. Like I've evolved, right? Like you can't be an artist who's like hitting me up and being like, hey, I got this hook that I've already wrote, and I want you to kind of like harmonize. And so maybe talk about, and in that maybe give some advice to people that are maybe working through that as being, a woman artist, finding your voice in the space, but then also being able to decline or respectfully remove yourself. So what got you to that point? And then kind of what would you say to someone who's like trying to figure that out, especially when, be like, it's my friend or it's my home, like that, because it's so intertwined sometimes.
Absolutely. I would definitely start by saying that it's been almost 10 years. I would say 2015 is when I really started like taking myself seriously as an artist and actually booking shows, trying to, create recorded music and putting things out. And so I'd say that one, starting there, like I'm not going to say that fresh out the gate, I'm still in my learning phase and I'm like, decline.
Right.
Like, I don't fuck with you. But I will say that just like with anything, over time, you start to learn what works for you. And so for some people that does work, right? Like for some people, it's like, give me the guidance, sort of give me the boundaries or the limitations of where I should be creating and then go from there. But for me, I had to learn that didn't work for me. So after working with a producer who I've had such great musical chemistry with, like Eddie, after us working together, I was like, oh, this is what this is supposed to feel like.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like, oh, this person is like actually listening and valuing my advice. They're listening to my direction. And oftentimes what I would do is I would actually go to Eddie with like stacked vocals already. And I would be like, let's make this into a song. Like
because I've already visualized, I kind of already know.
I already put down the stencil. So let's like now make it a whole thing. And so I'd say that for other folks, like I've had, rappers reach out and be like, "Hey, can you get on this and can you do this?" And I've done some feature stuff before, but I realized that like it takes a little bit more space for me to stretch out and feel like I'm making a creative contribution to something. And like oftentimes I think even for vocalists in general, and I've thought this before I was ever in the mix, is like there are some vocalists who have gorgeous voices and are extremely talented writers, but they get pigeonholed into being on the hook. And I think that that's crazy because you would never reach out to another guy rapper and be like, "Hey, bro, can you rap on my hook?" Like you would never
You
do
would
that.
say, "Here's your Put the 16 on there, and like, yeah."
And I think that that is like really interesting to see how like patriarchy shows up in music. I mean, we see that every single day, but in that instance, it's like you've never really heard, except for I will say, what song was I just listening to? Oh, J. Cole's Forbidden Fruit. Kendrick Lamar is on his hook.
Okay.
And
I don't know.
And that's, I'm sure somebody else in this room knows that, but or someone listening or watching knows this. Yeah. Okay, I'm goofy, so we're gonna be laughing. I won't be holding it in. Thank you. But so I think in small instances like that has happened, but oftentimes you see folks are reaching out to women and like, "Hey, can you get on this hook?" And it's like, nah, let her stretch out on a verse.
Yeah.
Give my sister a verse because she deserves. And I also think that people underestimate how much like musicianship goes into being a vocalist. And like literally my instrument is my voice. And I think rappers specifically sometimes underestimate how that can diversify their musical experience that they're trying to get across. Yeah. So it's like actually give somebody space to
be in that collaborate
with you.
Exactly. And then don't have any kind of ego about it after the fact because I'm elevating what you're doing.
Yeah. And so I would say for people who are interested in going that route or like finding what works for them is like really be intentional about having conversations with yourself about like what you want out of your musical experience. Because it did take me some time to get there. But I think once you have that conversation and you're honest, go ahead and start learning how to say no fast. The faster you learn how to say no, the faster you get to the things that you want to say yes to. And at the end of the day, if somebody respects you, saying no is honestly just going to make them respect you more.
You can always double back around.
You can double back if the time isn't right now. And I love saying that, not right now.
Not right now.
Not where I'm at, because I never know how I'm going to feel in the next year.
Exactly.
But right now it's not working. So,
Shout out that. What is it? The album. What are your top 3 songs? I have mine, and I'm going to sing.
He said, I have mine. What are yours?
Well, I mean, thank you. I got a chance to hear it exclusively before it came out.
Yeah.
So I was already obsessed.
Before.
Yeah.
You heard it well before. And now I'm trying to think of the damn songs. Purify, Let Me Inside. Rinky.
Rinky.
So that's Awakening, Rinky, and Never See.
Okay.
What about you?
Rinky, Moody, and Moi.
I was just listening to Moi in the car on the way.
Yeah. They hit. It's like it makes me think Footwork.
Oh, yes.
It has that, and then Rinky is like, let's go to the skate rink.
Yes.
You know, like it gives Chicago.
Love that.
All right, so speaking about Chicago, you from Chicago. You from the city.
From the city, born and raised.
What has it been like for you kind of sort of seeing the growth of artists in the city, and then for you choosing to like stay here and continue to like not only work, but then also create your art? And then maybe even talk about where you're from, where you grew up.
Yeah, I'll start there because I think that really gives context to like my musical experience here. I'm from the southeast side, so Jeffrey Manor specifically, which is like around the like 95th and Jeffrey area. And I always talk to my sister about how growing up over there, it's really crazy to think about how we have evolved and like manifested our life outside of that nook. And like, because a lot of people don't make it out of that nook. And it's a very isolated part of the city, I think. And even musically, like there's like not a lot of art infrastructure or music infrastructure on the southeast side from like where I was at. And so when I think about how far I've come, like it's a really big far, and I be thinking about like, wow, the visions that you have when you're 6 and 7 and 8, like those things really do impact like what's possible for your life. And so I always knew that I wanted to do music, but I really had to like claw my way into the art community here in Chicago. And I wouldn't say that it's like people weren't letting me in, right?
I was just about to say, what you mean by claw?
Right. I'm going to say, right. Yeah. I will say that Chicago is very cliquey. Yes. However, when I say claw, I mean like literally geographically having to like go well out beyond my own neighborhood
to find the community.
Honestly, outside of my only side of the city, right? So even beyond neighborhood is like, I feel like I had to go outside of the South Side in order to like just expose myself to like other possibilities and to also make connections and network with people. Like I would say definitely going to open mics was a really big way of meeting community. I went to Mother Macaulay High School, and then I went to HF my senior year. So Homewood Flossmoor High School my senior year. That's where I met FemDot. We was in the same grade. I met Ohana Bam or BK Bambino. I met Jahari. I met like a bunch of musically, like the art programming at HF was really robust. And so I remember BK took me to my first studio session at Soundscape.
Oh, wow.
When we was working with
Newly Classic Studios compound.
Newly Classic Studios, which is crazy.
Right.
He took me to my first real studio session, and I'll never not just like thank him for being like sort of that connecting tissue between a lot of, just like my musical experience, because he was already very like, they was senior year, we finna go to the studio, we finna use our money to go to the studio type beat. And it's not just the studio in the crib, but the studio. We're going to the space. And so I would say that that's what I mean by clawing my way. It's like there was not, like I didn't go to a Lane Tech or Whitney Young or any of these places or Jones where like all of these art communities were already happening, or people that had access to like open mics just by going outside of their school grounds. Everything has been like being very intentional about, first of all, making genuine friendships first. Like, I don't really like to just work with people. Like, I do like to have a genuine connection with them. And then being like, okay, cool. Like, we cool. Let's collaborate. Like, let's see what we can make creatively. And so that's what I mean by clawing my way. And
Thank
that's
you for explaining that.
Yeah.
But you had to go. You had to go and find it and
really get it
and build it.
Yeah.
Shout out that. Do you see yourself staying in Chicago?
For sure. I think when I made this project and it came out, I had.
Are you going to LA, New York?
Yeah. I mean, I just said that no like that to the LA part. I went to college my freshman year in New York, and I love New York, and I would definitely go back just based off the fact that I love New York and want to live there. I don't really think that, even though New York people listen to my music way more than Chicago people, which is crazy. Whenever I look at my numbers, it's always East Coast.
Oh, wow.
I always think that that's so crazy, but hey, girl. But I was gonna say that after making this project, one of my homies came up to me and she was like, she's like, Shawnee, like, why do you already sound famous? Like, why do this record already sound famous? And I was like, what do you mean? Like, it's good quality? Like, yeah. And I just, after her saying that, I was like, just based off that, there's no need for me to go out and try to find something that I already have.
Yeah.
I already feel like I have a really strong community around me that has helped me get to where I'm at now. And I really feel like it's just something so rewarding being like, I'm from the Southeast side and I still live on the Southeast side. And
Shut
I'm
up.
still making all of my dreams possible on the Southeast side.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's something really rewarding about that. And not to say that I won't travel places and maybe take extended trips, you know, here and there, 2 months here, 3 months there, blah, blah, blah. But there's no need for me to reinvent the wheel right now. And I even think just the infrastructure here is like, it's not as corny as other places, but that doesn't mean that it isn't sustainable and that it doesn't work.
Right. So you're proof that it's possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shawnee Dez, proof. You know what I'm saying?
You feel me?
Right.
They trying to run niggas out of Chicago anyway with all this propaganda. And I have a theory that they're doing that because
they know
we live by water.
Mm-hmm.
We get all 4 seasons. And I think they're trying to make it so that like the property value falls and then a bunch of people come in and gentrify it and take it back up. And I'm not going nowhere. Like, just based off of that, like on some outside of music stuff, I'm not leaving because this is a gold mine.
It is.
Like,
and has been.
Ashe.
So, how did you get your start in music? I feel like you have like your family is musical, like church as well. I know a little something, but like tell the people. Yeah.
So I went to St. Albie on Stony Island, and I started choir in 1st grade, and I did choir throughout all the way through high school. Did I do any performing arts stuff in college? Not for real. I was just like doing little shows and stuff here and there in college. But that was my start. 1st grade. So at St. Albie, I think you had to be in like 2nd or 3rd grade to start choir. But my big sister was in 4th grade. And I feel like she kind of vouched for me and was like, nah, like, she the truth, let her in. And to this day, shout out to my big sister, Jhaylen. I love you. She taught me how to sing. She taught me about all the music that I listen to. And I would really like a lot of the early like seed planting started from being in choir in 1st grade and then throughout. And so it was like it wasn't intense, but we did travel. Like we traveled, we like performed in different states, stuff like that. I don't know if y'all know Ryan the person, but Ryan just played Coachella with Saba.
With my other fave.
With Fave, right? Uh-huh. He played Coachella with Saba. Ryan played the drums for our choir all the way. Like, imagine a little boy in 2nd grade going hard on the drums for the whole choir up to 8th grade.
Oh, wow.
So that's just to give you a glimpse of how intense it was. And then another dude, Simon Cotton, who was in my class, he played the keys for us along with our choir director, Robert Murphy. And then his daughter was the choir director, blah, blah, blah. But it was like, we were given really big roles at such a young age, and music was the sport of my grammar school. We didn't have like a robust like basketball, we didn't have football, we didn't have a lot of stuff, but choir was the thing.
Come on.
Choir and band, those were the things that was like, all right, if you was in choir, you probably gonna go somewhere with music. So shout out to Mr. Murphy. I love you. Actually, he's my uncle now because my sister married into his family. So it's really crazy how that all happened. But that's my start, along with like my parents owned a salon also on Stony Island. And my dad used to kind of like force me to perform for his clients.
Get on.
He'd be
yeah.
like, you say you want to sing, go ahead. And I'd be like, Daddy, like, what kind of movie do you think this is? Like,
practice.
Yeah, so it was just like getting over I never really had stage fright or fear of like
natural
performing and stuff because, you know, cracking jokes, you feel me? Like, ah. But yeah, so that was my start.
Okay. 2 names. Shawnee Dez, Shawnee Dez.
Sure.
Who are those people and where?
They're all the same person.
They're all the same person.
But I'll explain. So Shawnee Dez is what I use in my like 9-to-5 life. Because my last name is Day, D-A-Y. And Desne is like my real middle name, which is what I chopped off the N-A-E. Wait, D-E-Z-N-A. Is that his real name? N-A-E. Yeah, N-A-E.
Why?
Because I just didn't like it. I thought it was too long. Yeah, it used to be Shawnee Day, and then this one dude was like, oh my God, Andra Day and you might be in the same category in terms of musical, like y'all are both like in the same genre. And that was kind of early on. I was like, you know what, you're right, and I don't really want to be... I don't know.
Set your own kind of sort of lane.
And it wasn't any, and I love Andrew Day, and it was just like a business thing when he said that. So I was like, whatever, I'll change it from Shawnee Day to Shawnee Dez. Both of them are still my real names. Thanks. I like the Z.
Yeah, Dez.
Dez, the E and the Z, it's like really great. So
okay. Thanks for sharing. I wondered because I was just like, who? I feel like it was like 2015 or something like that.
It was a long time ago. Yeah,
it was a minute.
Yeah.
But shout out being able to change something that you don't like in order to set yourself up for essentially what you want to be called and how you want people to engage with you.
Right.
Yeah.
Never too late to change your mind, y'all.
Never too late. Okay, so you are not just an artist, you're also an organizer and a community builder. Can you talk a little bit about Black Joyride and the open mics that you... Yeah.
Okay. Black Joyride started in 2020 around Juneteenth, and it's just a mass bike ride. It is a sort of call to action to get Black people to take up space and to show joy and to just show people that we exist, specifically on bikes. We see a lot of infrastructure issues in Black and brown neighborhoods when it comes to cycling. Like, there's not really a lot of cycling infrastructure in terms of like physically like barriers on the street or potholes. It's like a lot of potholes, things like that. And so I was like, let's start in the middle of the city and make people come to the South Side and like make them curious about why this big group of like beautiful people are, you know, what are they doing? Like, let's make them have a little bit of FOMO. And so, yeah, every year we start downtown and then we ride to Washington Park for like a culminating celebration on bikes, blades, and skates and stuff. And yeah, it's just turned into something that people look forward to. It's just an opportunity for people to come together and take up space. Like the take up space part is really important because I think we've seen a lot of critical mass rides. There are a few here in Chicago, but I think seeing Black critical mass rides like is really important. Like, even what we've seen with like youth not having a space to convene, not having a space to express. It's like, it's crazy for me to believe, first of all, that I'm not a youth anymore. That literally turns my stomach inside out. Wow. Ew. I'm
mentor.
Like, yeah, it's just really crazy because I have such vivid experiences, such vivid memories of experiences where I was once the youth that was like kicked out of places, right? Or like didn't really have a space to go. And so now when I'm thinking about the Black Joyride, I'm thinking about it as like a thing for young Black and brown kids to do where they are protected by me and other people to say like, no, y'all get to be here. Y'all get to be outside. y'all get to take up space. And so just really that's really what it is. It's just an opportunity for us to get together and take up space together. It's really that simple.
Yeah.
And it's turned into something really beautiful and really big, and people really look forward to it. And I think it's because of how simple it is. There's no like alternative agenda. It's really just like, let us be free. Let us be out here. And yeah, and before that, I was doing an open mic at this space in Wicker Park.
FDC.
FDC.
Let's go.
Right. Woo, yeah. At FDC, with my good brother, Jacob King, who brought me into the space. And that's also turned into something completely grand. And when I think about that, I think about the before times. Like every time I think about pre-COVID, I think about the open mics at FDC, because we were packed in that room, 100 something deep, for an open mic where on any given night we'd have about 15 people come up, do their thing, and then we would close out with like a band, right? It was really DIY, cans of beer and people smoking out in the alley. Like it was just the thing to do.
Yeah, community.
It was the community, and now it is the Sugar and Jam open mic, which is from my mom. So my mom's name is Sugar. Me and my sisters make up Jam, Journey, Ashanti Mazzani. So we've been called the Jam Sisters our whole life. So Sugar and Jam has been like our thing, and so now that's what it is. It's like we're probably gonna be doing more of those in the summer and fall when we can have people outside together safely. But really what that is just another way to get people together. Like that's what I'm all about, like convening folks. And I really do think that my purpose in this life is to connect with people and have people connect with each other. Like that feels like when that happens, that I'm like, this is why I was born.
Exactly.
Duh.
Purpose.
And so, yeah, all of those things are rooted in the purpose of connecting folks. Yeah. That answer?
It's a great answer.
Yeah,
Sugar and Jam.
Yeah.
That's also your business.
It is.
And that's how you also release your work as an independent artist. So can you talk about, I don't know, have you had any offers to sign or do distro? Like what has that process been like for you, and why have you chosen the path that you've chosen?
Yeah, I have had some, small offers here and there, but I think that really, really what it's been is like I never miss an opportunity to learn by someone else's example. And so I pay close attention to other artists and like what their journeys have looked like. And I know that there is no one way, there's 10 ways to skin a cat, right? But I do think that I value other people's experiences, their lived experiences. And so right now, there's no need for me to rush and do any type of, to sign with anything as far as a distro deal or even like within like a label, like a full-blown label backing deal. And I only say that because while everything is super expensive, do everything out of pocket, and sometimes with the support of like my parents, like I don't miss an opportunity. Look, I do not miss an opportunity to say, Papa Fee,
that
hey,
community, yeah.
Look, I am not. I don't want nothing for Christmas. I don't want nothing for my birthday. Say them gifts. I don't want it. Can y'all throw to this? Blah blah blah. And so I think right now I have a formula that works for me, and I don't feel like there's a need for me to complicate it just yet. And I do think that when the right time comes and the right offer comes and there's that chemistry and that purpose sort of aligning behind all of it and respect, then I'll do it. But for right now, I know that I'm the art, and so I don't need somebody else to validate that or tell me how to like make the art. Like really when you sign, you are signing for exposure and for these networks that are vast that can put you in front of places. And I think that sometimes what you'll see is like people will have all this backing and this they'll have the experience of folks sort of helping them get their stuff out there digitally.
Yeah.
But when it comes to getting in front of people and standing in the room, it kind of washes away.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I really don't have that problem right now. And so
Because you can get in the room.
as long as I can, if you put me on stage, I'm gonna turn somebody out. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's gonna, like, I really believe that once people have the opportunity to see me perform, the truth of like how much music is inside of me and how serious I am about music, it just kind of comes out. And so right now I feel like I'm doing what I need to do, and God willing, whatever God puts in front of me and I feel like it's aligned in his purpose for me, I'll take it. But if it don't feel like it's aligned in that, then and it's not time right now, it's okay.
Yeah, but you are interested. You would, given the right opportunity and respect came along, to sign. Because I feel like some artists are very like, I want to be independent, and that's the process that I want to go through. And then some are kind of like, we'll see. Are you more on the lines of, not for me right now, but it is something you would entertain?
I think, yeah, like always, I know that my circumstances always have the possibility of changing. But I will say too, like, even the term independent artist is such a nuanced term. Mm-hmm. And it isn't necessarily, like, sometimes people call themselves independent if they are signed to an independent label. And for me, I'm like, I don't know if that's independent. Or people will call themselves independent if they only have a distro deal. Yeah. Or they're independent if they only have this sort of deal with this label. And
so is it like levels to it?
When I say that I'm independent, I literally mean that every single thing
self-funded. Yes.
Everything's self-funded, self-recorded. And I'm not even saying that you have to be self-recorded to be independent. I'm just telling you my context.
Yes.
My context is that my whole album was recorded in a variety of bathrooms and bedrooms. And when I say that I am independent, I mean like all of my paychecks go to funding everything. Legit. Like paying all my friends, videographers, photographers, studio sessions, mix master. That's what I mean when I say independent. I don't know what the other girls mean when they say independent.
Right.
Because I don't feel like it's the same thing.
Shade. Okay, so performances. Mm-hmm. What I noticed about you is that you're funny as fuck, and you really do have a truly authentic way of engaging your audience. How do you cultivate that? How is that executed? And kind of speak to folks that are maybe trying to find their movement and comfort on the stage.
Yeah. The first thing that comes to mind when I think of an audience is like, I really don't be thinking of people as like outside of myself. Like for real, I just be like, oh, these are other people just like me, and they are here to experience something. And so the way that I really think about it is like how I am with myself. Like I think of it as a mirror. And like when I'm at home, I do be sometimes like, I need to like hide cameras around my house and then remember that I have them there and then just play it back sometimes, because the way that I, first of all, do this all the time, like what I'll do is like, I'll just be sort of like washing dishes, and then I'll pretend that I'm having an interview, and then I'll start to talk like this, and then I'll just answer all these questions in an accent. You know what I'm saying? So for me, this is like what I do all the time, or like performing. Like I just feel like every day I wake up, I'm just performing. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And so I really don't see that there's a difference between me being on and off the stage, for real. And I think that I say that in like the most authentic way, though. Like I don't think that like I'm waking up and being like, okay, who are we gonna be today?
I'm a character.
Like I'm not a freaking sociopath. But I am like constantly every time that I'm engaging with somebody is like an opportunity for me to, again, connect with them. And that's how I feel about performance. And also growing up in the church
Mm-hmm.
and having my first musical experiences be performing in a choir. When you're in a choir, you swallowed up in this whole energy that is like
Bigger than yourself.
bigger than yourself. And so you don't have room for fear because there's so much, you're like encompassed in like this thing that's bigger than you. And you're also singing about something that's much greater than you. You're singing about God. And so I think having that sort of be my primer and that's be the place where I'm starting at.
It readied you.
It's like, what's next? You know what I mean? And so when I'm performing, it just feels like I'm doing my true thing. Like that is like the thing that I feel like I'm supposed to do.
So it's talent. It's talent, babe. I can't teach it to you.
No, I would say it's for the second half for people who are interested in finding that comfort is like, you can't wait until people are looking to be the thing that you want to be. Right? And so how are you when nobody's watching? I do this stuff when nobody's watching. The jokes that I crack to y'all,
I've already cracked them to myself.
Cracking them to myself. I want to make myself laugh, okay? Or I'm performing around my house, like practicing. I look at myself in the mirror sometimes. Like I have these really big, again, I'm Southeast side. I live in a building that's like 100 and some years old. So our space has like a wall of mirrors. And in that wall of mirrors, I was like, go and look at myself and look at how am I convincing myself that I really mean these words? Like, am I really exuding what I'm saying? And so I would say for people who are interested in that is like I said, don't wait until people are looking. Like, be that, embody that. If you are a carpenter, how are you creating things when you're not being commissioned to do the work, right? And so by the time that somebody's commissioning you to do the work, you've already mastered it for yourself.
Yes.
And that's what it is. I'm rating myself every time I perform. I'm upping myself every time. I'm not thinking about nobody else. And I watch performances as well. I live on YouTube. I watch interviews and performances all day long. And just out of interest. And you can learn so much by experiencing other people's craft or seeing them do their craft. So that's my advice for other people.
Nice. So you often talk about getting free through your music. Can you talk a little bit about what does that mean to get free and why that is important to you?
For sure. Specifically performing, right? Because I do think that there's like a level of like intricate technique that is required for recording music that doesn't always allow for that expansive freedom that you can do in a live performance where you're not really worried about capturing this thing correctly, blah, blah, blah. You're not doing second takes. For me, when I'm performing, there's like, it's really hard to explain, but there's a feeling that you have where you're just like completely out of control and the thing that you're doing is like leading you. I don't know. It's really the hardest thing to explain.
It's spiritual.
No, for real.
Yeah.
It really, really is. And that's why I like value, that's why I really think so highly of the gift of music because it really is spiritual. And to be able to do it, I really do think is like a gift. Like I'm so thankful that this was the thing that I was blessed with in this lifetime. Like it's crazy. And for me, getting free really feels like losing control or losing the will to control the situation and just allowing the performance to really speak through you. And I've cried on stage before. I have been performing a song. I've performed Never See before and cried before. And I think that is like ultimate freedom to me because I'm allowing that emotion to just come up and come out. And it's really important to have that. You know, I'm not going to sit up here and say that I feel that way every single performance. But when I do feel that way, I'm like, ooh, okay, I cracked something. I
Mhm.
cracked something open in this. Or when I'm just like drenched in sweat, my makeup look all fucked up. I'm like, oh, bitch, I'm Tina Turner. Like, fuck y'all, I'm Tina Turner.
Right.
The way they used to sweat in the 60s and 70s and
Mhm.
80s, I'm like, I want to tap into that. I'm not trying to be cute on stage. I'm trying
Right.
to get
Trying
fucking
to give
free.
it.
Like, I
Mhm.
don't give a fuck about being cute. I want to be free. And sometimes freedom is ugly. And it's like, it's not always the cute, neat, put together thing. And I'll say too that like the musicians that I play with,
Mhm.
Josh Jessen, Kurt Shelby, Elijah Harris. I've performed with Chris Sanchez before, Eddie Burns, Left Jones, Kenneth Leffridge.
Great
Like
musicians.
all these musicians also really do cultivate a space that is welcoming enough for me to be free, and vice versa.
Yeah.
So when we perform together, it's not just them rehearsing my number and doing the number, right? It's like, how can y'all stretch out on this too? How can you make this your own experience? And I think people can feel that. And like, even we are having this conversation in a time that's really close to a lot of festivals that are happening. A lot of people have been having conversations about how artists are not necessarily, artists are coming out performing over tracks, bro.
Yeah. Yeah, we
What?
musicians.
Excuse
Yeah.
me?
Mhm.
Excuse me? And it's no shade, but it is like, how much do you value your skill? How much do you value your skill when people are paying hundreds of dollars to see you,
Mhm.
and you are essentially lip syncing and then dropping in a word every now and then over a full vocal track? And for me, that a person in the audience, or the mirror, I should say, can feel that that doesn't resonate.
Mhm.
And so I'm always thinking about, how do I give an experience that resonates and penetrates very deep beyond this? How do I help people create core memories?
Mhm.
Like,
Well,
I've
you do it.
I've seen artists and I'm like, bro, I will never forget the first time I saw Thundercat.
Mhm.
Every time I see him, it's a core memory locked in my head. And that's what I want to do for people. So, yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Shawnee, for saying yes to being on the podcast and for being just a light and just a source. And is there anything that you want to say to close out? What's next?
Yes, I
What's
want
coming
to
up?
say thank you for holding this space. Thank you for all the space that you hold for a lot of artists.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for following your passion, and articulating it so clearly, and for being a facilitator. Um, it's really special, the work that you're doing. So thank you for allowing me to be a part of that journey for you. And yeah,
Lincoln Hall.
it's up.
It's plugged
Lincoln
up.
Hall. Lincoln Hall, May 18th, pull up, headlining. Got Kari on the bill, got Trinity Star Ultra on the bill. We finna give y'all jazz, rap, soul, a whole night of Chicago experience. So pull up. Gra, gra.
All right. Well, thank you so much again for being with us.
Of course.
We'd like to give a shout out to our sponsors, Triptych Visuals, Red Bull, and Adaptive Studios. Without them, none of this would be possible. And period.
Period. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you, Nicole. Thanks,
Mm.
now.